They thought you were naive, Aquarius. They mistook your silence for weakness, your kindness for ignorance, and your calmness for something they could manipulate. They believed you were too gentle to see the truth, too forgiving to recognize the game they were playing. But what they didn't know is that your silence was never a sign of surrender. It was your strategy. While they were laughing behind masks, you were observing every detail. While they were pretending to lead the game, you were reading the entire map. You didn't react, not because you didn't care, but because you already understood where their story was headed. You knew that time has a way of revealing everything hidden. You knew that when truth is patient, lies eventually choke on their own noise. They thought they were outsmarting you, but you were outgrowing them. Every time they tried to manipulate your emotions, you became more detached. Every time they tried to confuse you, your clarity deepened. You didn't need to confront them. You let the universe do that for you. Because Aquarius, you are not the kind who fights fire with fire. You burn illusions with truth. Your energy doesn't compete, it exposes. And while they were busy playing, you were mastering self-control, something no manipulator can ever win against. You see, the real power isn't in reacting quickly. It's in staying still when chaos tries to provoke you. It's in choosing silence when noise wants attention. It's in walking away, not out of fear, but out of awareness that peace is worth more than any argument. Those who tried to play you were never truly prepared for your depth. They expected an emotional reaction, but they met divine restraint. They wanted you to crumble, but you became unreadable, and that terrified them more than anything. You didn't expose them, you simply elevated, and the higher you rose, the smaller their schemes became. Their game stopped being fun the moment they realized you weren't even playing. If you've ever been underestimated, if someone thought they could use you, fool you, or take advantage of your kindness and walk away untouched, declare your truth in the comments. They can't outsmart divine timing. Because that's your affirmation, Aquarius. You don't chase revenge, you wait for revelation. And when it arrives, it always arrives perfectly timed. So stay till the end, because before this message concludes, you'll understand why the tables had to turn, why their betrayal was not your downfall, but the bridge that led you straight into your power. It began quietly, didn't it, Aquarius? No loud arguments, no clear signs at first, just a subtle shift in energy. Someone close to you, maybe a friend who knew your secrets, a lover who once promised loyalty, or a coworker who acted like an ally, started playing a quiet game behind your back. They thought they were being clever. They smiled in your face, pretending everything was normal, but their energy told another story. Their compliments began to sound rehearsed. Their messages, once full of warmth, started to feel cold, almost mechanical. And when you shared your thoughts, you noticed how quickly they redirected the conversation, as if your feelings were an inconvenience. You noticed it all, the small pauses, the half-truths, the energy that didn't match the words. They thought you were blind to their shift. But Aquarius, you've always had the gift of reading what isn't spoken. You don't need explanations. You feel truth vibrating in silence. Your soul catches dishonesty before your mind even names it. And yet, you didn't react. You didn't confront them or expose them. You didn't rush to prove what you knew, because your spirit whispered something deeper. Observe before you react. That's your divine wisdom, Aquarius. You don't move in chaos, you move in rhythm with the unseen. Your intuition flows like wind, invisible, yet it moves everything in its path. You see through people, through their masks, through their motives. But instead of fighting their game, you let them keep playing it, because you already knew how it would end. They thought they were studying you. They watched your routines, your kindness, your loyalty, taking mental notes as if you were predictable. But what they didn't realize was that your calmness is not predictability, it's power. You give people the freedom to reveal who they are, and they always do, eventually. The truth is, they mistook your compassion for weakness. They thought that because you forgave easily, you would forget easily. They thought that because you were quiet, you were unaware. But in reality, while they were plotting their next move, you were reading the entire pattern of their behavior. You were learning what kind of person they truly were, and more importantly, what kind of person you no longer needed to be around. Their every lie became your lesson. Their manipulation became your training. And that's the irony. They believed they were leading the story, but they were only walking straight into a truth you had already foreseen. They set the stage, thinking they were the director. They planned every scene, every word, every move they thought would control your emotions. But what they forgot, Aquarius, is that you wrote the script before they ever arrived. You've lived through deceit before. You've survived manipulation before. And now you see patterns faster than most people can even speak them. So while they were busy trying to play you, you were quietly letting destiny play them. You watched them build their illusion, Aquarius. Piece by piece, word by word, they constructed a false world around you. One where they believed they held the power. They thought their charm was enough to control your emotions, their confidence enough to blind your intuition, their attention enough to keep you hooked. They played with your heart like it was a puzzle they could solve, never realizing you had already solved them. They believed they had you wrapped in their words, controlled by their presence, and trapped inside their manipulation. But what they didn't know was that you were never inside their trap. You were observing it from above. Every time they lied, you saw the flicker in their energy. Every time they pretended, you caught the shift in their tone. They believed they were winning the game, but you were 10 steps ahead the entire time. Not because you planned revenge, but because you saw something they couldn't see. Their deep, hidden insecurity. They wanted to dominate, not out of strength, but out of fear. They wanted to outshine you, but your light was never competing. It was revealing. You didn't need to fight them. You simply had to be yourself, and your authenticity exposed everything false about them. Spiritually, this was a divine lesson, a training ground for your intuition. You were not being punished, you were being prepared. The divine allowed you to witness this deceit, not to destroy your faith, but to sharpen your discernment. Because Aquarius, when you rise again, and you will rise surrounded by truth, not illusion. This experience was never about them. It was about you learning how to trust your inner knowing, even when others tried to rewrite your reality. It was about recognizing that not everyone who smiles is sincere, and not everyone who praises you truly wants you to succeed. They tried to manipulate the situation, to play you as a pawn, but your higher self was always watching from the throne. You didn't have to expose them. Their own behavior did that for you. Because deception has one fatal flaw. It eventually collapses under the weight of truth. Remember this, Aquarius. The universe does not allow fake energy to sit near divine purpose for long. When someone's intention doesn't align with your destiny, the universe creates distance. It removes them, one subtle moment at a time, until the truth stands alone. So when the masks fall off, when people you trusted suddenly reveal who they truly are, don't call it betrayal. Call it revelation. It's not meant to hurt you. It's meant to free you. You were never losing people. You were being shown the difference between attachment and alignment. And through that revelation, you learned the greatest truth of all. Those who need to deceive in order to win were never playing on your level. You were never part of their illusion. You were the mirror that exposed it. There came a day, Aquarius, when the fog lifted, when you could no longer pretend you didn't see what was right in front of you. Their lies, which once stung so deeply, no longer had the power to hurt you. They just looked small. You realized that everything they said, everything they did, came from fear, not power. And in that realization, something inside you shifted. You stopped taking their actions personally. You stopped wondering why they did it, and instead, you started seeing who they truly were. It was like watching a stage play where every mask began to crack under its own weight. And while they were still pretending to play the role of control, you were already outgrowing the entire performance. The truth burned quietly in your chest, but instead of reacting, you smiled. Because you understood something most people never do. You don't need to expose people who are already exposing themselves. You simply let them talk. You let their actions speak. And in silence, their deceit revealed itself louder than any argument ever could. Your calm became your weapon. Your detachment became your defense. And your peace, that was the power they never saw coming. While they were busy trying to trigger a reaction, you responded with stillness. You refused to be dragged into their chaos. And in that moment, you won without ever needing to fight. You didn't argue, you didn't chase, you didn't need to explain yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You simply elevated. And the higher you went, the less they could reach you. They thought you were walking away in defeat, but you were actually walking toward alignment, toward a place where truth vibrates higher than deception. Because what they called losing you was never a loss for you. It was heaven's way of removing them. The universe was clearing your path, making sure that no one who tried to play you could walk into the blessings that were waiting ahead. So while they were busy wondering why you became distant, you were finally free. Free from manipulation, free from guilt, and free from the illusion that you needed to fix what was never yours to heal. And when they tried to play guilt into your heart, they found a version of you they couldn't manipulate anymore. A version that no longer reacts from pain, but responds from power. A version that doesn't play games with divine purpose. You became calm, collected, and untouchable. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally understood. Peace is the loudest response to betrayal. And that peace, Aquarius, is what outplayed them completely. Now comes the part they never saw coming, Aquarius. The reversal. The shift that turns everything upside down without you having to lift a single finger. The same people who laughed behind your back, thinking they had outsmarted you, are now haunted by the truth. Every step they took to deceive you only pushed you closer to your purpose. They thought their tricks would break you, but all they did was build you. They thought their gossip would ruin your name, but it only purified your circle. They thought they were blocking your path, but in reality, they were redirecting you, pushing you towards something far greater, something divinely aligned. When they tried to humiliate you, they didn't know they were cleansing your environment, removing those who could never celebrate your light. They thought they had won, but they only revealed who was never worthy of standing beside you in victory. This is divine irony. The moment when your stillness becomes their downfall. Because you didn't fight dirty. You didn't lower your vibration to match theirs. You moved with grace, with integrity, with faith. And when you move with integrity, Aquarius, deceit has no foundation. It collapses under its own weight. Now they look at you and wonder, how are you still shining after everything? How are you still peaceful after what we did? How did you manage to rise when we buried you in lies? They can't understand it because your power was never human, it was divine. You were never playing their game, you were walking your purpose. You don't need validation from those who tried to break you, because your validation comes from alignment, not approval. Their confusion is your confirmation. They're watching you glow without their support. They're watching you attract blessings without their help, and it's shaking their spirit. They can't grasp how you found peace without apology, how you found strength without revenge. But that's what happens when a divine soul walks through betrayal with clean hands. The universe steps in and rearranges everything in your favor. The tables turned, not by your will, but by divine timing. What they meant for harm became the very thing that elevated you. You didn't chase justice. Justice found you. You didn't seek revenge. Peace became your revenge. And the same mouths that once mocked you now whisper your name in disbelief, wondering how the one they tried to play ended up holding the winning card. Because Aquarius, your path was never theirs to control. Your rise was written long before their betrayal. And now that you've stepped fully into your purpose, no game, no scheme, no manipulation can stand against divine alignment. You no longer play their game. You walk in purpose, and that's a game they will never be able to win. Aquarius, the moment you stopped chasing closure, something powerful began to unfold in your life. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sudden, it was quiet, almost sacred. You began to feel the air around you shift, as if your spirit finally exhaled after holding its breath for far too long. You stopped explaining yourself to people who were committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped seeking peace in the places that once caused you pain. And you stopped waiting for those who hurt you to acknowledge what they did. Because you realized their silence was the confession. You didn't need them to admit the truth anymore. You had already seen everything you needed to see. The moment you chose peace over proving your point, Aquarius, you stepped into divine clarity. It was like a veil lifted. Suddenly, what once confused you now made perfect sense. The betrayal that felt unfair began to look like redirection. The endings that hurt so deeply began to reveal their higher purpose. And slowly you understood. It wasn't punishment. It was graduation. You didn't lose something, you outgrew something, you didn't get abandoned, you got redirected. Because the truth is, you were never being broken. You were being built into someone stronger, wiser, and spiritually untouchable. The people who tried to play you, who thought they could manipulate you, mock you, or outsmart you, they became the very instruments the universe used to awaken your hidden strength. They thought they were destroying your confidence, but in reality, they were teaching you the value of self-trust. They thought they were making you doubt yourself, but all they did was push you to listen more closely to your intuition. Every manipulation they tried to use became a mirror that reflected your untapped courage, your endurance, your quiet intelligence. You learned that peace doesn't mean ignorance, it means power. You learned that walking away doesn't mean weakness, it means mastery. You learned that love doesn't mean tolerance, it means discernment. And in that awakening, Aquarius, your soul changed frequency. You began to see differently. You began to feel differently. The world around you didn't necessarily change, but you started perceiving it through the lens of wisdom instead of emotion. Spiritually, you've entered a realm where truth protects you before lies can approach. You sense deceit in its early stages. You can feel bad intentions before words are even spoken. You've become a mirror of light, one that reveals energy before masks even have time to settle. And this is not arrogance. This is spiritual alignment. You have walked through enough pain to understand peace. You have experienced enough betrayal to recognize authenticity. And now, you can tell instantly when someone is real and when someone is rehearsing. The universe is rewarding you for that emotional intelligence. You were tested through deception, but you didn't let bitterness consume you. You were provoked by chaos, but you chose calmness instead. You had every reason to fight back, but you chose elevation. That restraint, that inner strength was noticed. Heaven took record of your grace under fire. And now, life is shifting to reflect the person you've become through that pain. Your blessings are already in motion, Aquarius. They might not arrive all at once, but every time you release bitterness, you create more space for abundance. Every time you forgive silently, you call peace closer to you. And every time you choose calm over chaos, you build a foundation so strong that no storm can destroy it again. The more they talked about you, the more your glow became undeniable. The more they tried to twist your story, the more the truth began to reveal itself in ways they could never control. Because what they didn't understand is this: your elevation was never social, it was spiritual. You don't rise by popularity, you rise by alignment. You don't need a crowd, you only need clarity. You don't need approval, you only need purpose. And when you have those two things, no human strategy can stand against divine design. They tried to dim your light, but your light wasn't powered by their opinion. It was fueled by your faith. They tried to shame you, but your calm made their chaos louder. They tried to close doors on you, but destiny opened new ones right in front of their eyes. They're starting to see it now, that everything they did against you only built the bridge that led you closer to your destiny. Their gossip turned into your motivation. Their betrayal turned into your protection. Their rejection turned into your redirection. And even now, some of them are confused, asking themselves, how are you still standing? How are you still glowing after all that? But what they don't realize is that your glow no longer comes from what you have. It comes from what you've healed. It comes from the pain you turned into purpose, the chaos you turned into calm, the endings you turned into new beginnings. They can't destroy what heaven designed. And you, Aquarius, were divinely designed. You are walking proof that a pure heart cannot be defeated. No weapon formed against you could prosper, because your spirit was already 5 steps ahead of every illusion. You now walk differently. You speak differently. You love differently. You attract differently. Because you finally know what you deserve, and you no longer settle for anything that doesn't feel like peace. So remember this, you didn't just survive their games, you transformed through them. You didn't just rise, you ascended. Because what they thought was the end of you was only the beginning of your awakening. The universe watched the way you handled betrayal and decided that your story wouldn't end in pain, it would end in peace. And from this moment on, Aquarius, every door that opens for you will be proof that divine timing never misses. You rose not in anger, but in awareness. You rose not to prove them wrong, but to prove to yourself that your soul is unbreakable. And as you continue to rise, quietly, gracefully, powerfully, know this truth. Your name is protected by light, your destiny is sealed by divine order, and your peace is your eternal revenge. So now, Aquarius, when you look back, you no longer see betrayal. You see training. You see divine orchestration disguised as disappointment. You see how every wound taught you wisdom, and how every ending was secretly preparing you for a better beginning. They tried to play you, but what they didn't know is that the game they played was written by higher hands. The divine designed the board long before they even took their first move. And you, the chosen one, were never meant to lose. You were meant to learn. You were meant to rise in silence, to grow in strength, to sharpen your intuition until nothing false could ever deceive you again. Every trick they tried to use against you became a lesson you now teach through your energy. Every attempt to break you only revealed how unbreakable your spirit truly is. You turned their manipulation into your wisdom. You turned their betrayal into your boundary. And you turned their silence, that cold, heavy silence, into your sanctuary. Because in that quiet, you found something far more valuable than their words. You found yourself. You learned that your peace is sacred. That your calmness is not weakness, it's power. That walking away doesn't mean defeat, it means elevation. And that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means freeing yourself from their control. Because your spirit, Aquarius, doesn't play for ego. It plays for truth. It plays for light, for alignment that surpasses understanding. You are not here to win over others. You are here to win over darkness. You are here to outshine manipulation with grace and to turn every shadow thrown at you into a lesson in illumination. Walk forward now knowing this. No one can truly play a soul that is aligned with purpose. No one can manipulate what is protected by divine timing. No one can rewrite a destiny that was written by the universe itself. You didn't outplay them with tricks or schemes. You outplayed them with stillness. You outplayed them with discernment. You outplayed them by refusing to become what hurt you. Your silence became your strength, your compassion became your shield, and your faith, that unshakable trust in divine justice, became your victory. Look at how far you've come. You no longer react to lies, you let truth expose them naturally. You no longer chase closure, you let peace answer what words cannot. You no longer carry resentment, you carry light. You no longer fight battles that drain your soul. You choose alignment over argument, wisdom over warfare. Aquarius, you are the player of light. Every move you make now carries purpose. Every word you speak carries clarity. Every step you take leads you closer to the life that was promised to you. And the ones who once tried to play you, they now watch from a distance, realizing that they were never playing against you. They were playing against themselves. Because the energy you carry can't be manipulated, it can only be mirrored. And they mirrored their true nature, while you reflected divine grace. That's why you won. Not through revenge, but through revelation. So type in the comments, "My peace is my power." Let that be your final affirmation, your declaration to the universe. Because peace is the weapon that never fails. Peace is what makes your presence impossible to replace. Peace is what proves that you are operating on a higher level. If this message spoke to your soul, don't forget to subscribe, Aquarius. Because your story isn't over, it's just transforming. And the next chapter of your journey, it will show the world exactly why no one wins against an awakened heart. Your silence was strategy, your patience was purpose, and your victory was always written in light.